I don't know about you, but the world is a pretty chaotic place at the moment. And if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling worried, if you're feeling tired, I feel you. And this episode is really for you. We're talking about how do you feel well when things aren't well? And so I'm joined by my good friend, Joel Pilgrim, who's going to talk to us about this idea of mental fitness. How do you build practices of recovery and rest? And how do you be calm in chaos? Let me tell you a bit about Joel. Joel Pilgrim is a mental fitness and leadership specialist with more than 15 years' experience in high-pressure, safety-critical environments. Trained as a mental health clinician and a long-serving CEO, he spent his career at the intersection of stress, performance, human behaviour, and workplace well-being. Joel is known for delivering experiential leadership programs that are challenging, psychologically safe, and deeply practical. He works across corporate emergency services, frontline teams, and operational settings. His work spans corporate emergency services, frontline teams, giving him a rare ability to help managers regulate pressure, lead difficult conversations, and build mentally healthy, high-performing teams. Let's get into it. This is a podcast about making work work. You'll learn about leadership, career growth, and how to navigate those weird work challenges. I run a HR consulting business called Boldside, where I help leaders build epic team cultures. If you lead a team or run a business and you think I can help, let's connect on LinkedIn. My name is Shelley Johnson, and this is Work. Joel, the world is pretty chaotic right now, and I was thinking about this episode and this conversation with you. And one big question on my mind at the moment is, how do you stay well and mentally healthy when everything in the world feels pretty volatile and stressful?
Oh, you nailed that. There is so much happening
Yes.
right now in the world. And regardless of whether it's, people are fearful of AI taking over their jobs or the multiple wars that are happening around the world or cost of living crisis, there is so much happening. And I think that one of the things that people do is they actually think about well-being as a really fluffy, laid-back thing. It's in the corner and we don't need to address it. But for me, it really comes down to mental fitness. Like, what are you doing to manage your own mental fitness in times of uncertainty so that you can deal with whatever comes at you? Whether that's change and uncertainty at work, whether that's in the community, in your own personal life, there is so many ways that you can manage, but people don't necessarily have them front of mind. Whether that is having a boundary and being able to, decide this is where my energy stops and this is where I'm going to, focus on my own well-being right now. Whether that is actually getting outside and taking a break, making the most of nature. That's a big one for me. I know that's big on you, right? It's get outside, get away from whatever technology or stimuli and just give yourself a chance to pause and reset for a second.
I was thinking, the other day someone messaged me and they're like, oh, how much doom scrolling are you doing at the moment? And I was like, doom scrolling has just taken on a new meaning, because I'm like, the world is just so doomy. I just think I can't go on any form of the internet, any form of socials and not feel terrified. And I'm like, how do you, and I guess this is my question in this climate that we're in, where there is so much outside of our control that is demanding our energy, as you say, and how do you refocus on things that are within your control when actually all that stuff is super important, very noisy and very doomy?
Yeah, I mean, social media is a love-hate relationship for me. It's obviously a big place of work for us. We connect with different people in different scenarios, but there's times where I actually completely drop a ball on something because I haven't responded for a week because I've deliberately put my phone over the side and said, I'm not going on social media right now. For me, that's a bit of a challenging scenario where I know that I want to find out about the news, what's happening in the world, all of the current affairs. But I also know that if you've got a limited amount of energy in a day, hours in a day, I need to spend that time wisely on what needs my attention the most. And whether that's the team that I'm working with, whether that's the project I'm working on, or whether that's spending time with my family because I'm trying to overcorrect that balance and make up for lost time really with not getting it right in the past.
Yeah. When you think about this idea of mental fitness, as you say, because there's a lot of talk in the space that I've kind of been in around well-being, but I think that language of mental fitness, I've heard obviously other people talk about it as mental toughness. Talk to me about the deliberate choice of language that you've used there.
I think mental toughness to me, I've not heard that too much, but it comes with a bit of bravado or a sense of like masculinity or strength. And sometimes that masculinity takes away from the ability to lean in and to get real about a conversation. For me, working as a therapist in a hospital with young people dealing with psychosis, language played a massive role in actually making them feel well or contributing to the stigma more so. So at the moment, I believe that there's too much focus around well-being being a soft skill, well-being being something that is really lovey-dovey, when really if we actually think about it as our mental fitness is just like our physical fitness. We know what we need to do to stay well, going to the gym, doing yoga, doing weights, whatever, that you feel great in the physical body. What are you doing to manage your mental health? If we hold the two in the same weighting and the same priority, that's what makes up well-being as a whole. But calling it mental fitness for me is a way that people can connect with more so and realize that actually that's something I need to constantly work at and constantly manage. Stay fit.
I love that actually, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking when you think about people talking about your physical fitness, like it's the idea of 30 minutes a day or some form of like a daily walk, or it doesn't have to be being into CrossFit and going to the extreme end of like what it means to be fit. It's like actually just like the habits and the routine of doing something physical, whatever that looks like for you, be it yoga, be it strength training, be it the daily walk. And there's so much obviously research and just like general consensus around that's a great thing to do. But when you're talking about mental fitness, imagine what it would be like if the same level of commitment and just acknowledgement collectively that, hey, this stuff really matters. This is like something we all need to invest time into, be it 15, 20, 30 minutes a day into your mental fitness. Can you just talk to me about what practices you can use to be mentally fit, particularly in challenging times like we're in right now where, there's a lot happening. How can I build my mental fitness and take ownership over that?
Yeah. So the first thing is getting active. So being physically fit also then releases endorphins and changes brain chemistry and you feel better. So movement is great for mental health. Small micro moments. So carving out time in your day deliberately to just pause and reflect. How am I feeling right now? What's actually happening inside of me right now? We often will go from one thing to the next, and we're so busy nowadays, the B word, that we don't actually have that moment to pause and reflect. I also think that, you talk about making that time in your day. They say that you need 20 minutes of meditation a day to manage your well-being. But a lot of people say, I don't have time for that. And if you don't have time for that, you need 40 minutes a day.
What do you mean? What do you mean? If you don't have 20
if you don't have
minutes?
time for 20 minutes in your day, you need to do 40 minutes.
What?
You know what I'm saying?
It's like a punishment though.
Right on. So a lot of people will think, I'll just squeeze it in. I'll just do a 5-minute moment. But realistically, if you're feeling so strapped for time and your well-being is really at a loss at the minute, you need to focus on that more so. So it's about an investment.
So it's like an overcorrection?
Correct.
See, it's really funny you say it because I recoil at that. Because I'm like, okay, I will be really honest. When I hear you say, if you don't have time for 20 minutes, because I do try to do 5 or so minutes of like mindfulness. I have the Calm app. I put it on. Yep. I just lie down and do breath work. And I try to do 5 to 8 minutes. And after I do a workout. And that to me is like a long time. And like, and then when you say, and I feel like we've talked about this, about my frantic life. I'm like, there's not a chance I feel like I could fit 40 minutes in. And just hearing you say that makes me freak out. I'm like, absolutely not. So can we just dig into that for a sec? Because if anyone's listening, they're like, holy shit, how am I supposed to do 40 minutes when I can't even do 5 minutes?
Yeah. So it's not necessarily you're sitting down, you've got the Calm app and you need 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
It's whatever you're doing in your day, how are you being mindful or how are you creating a meditative sort of opportunity for yourself? For me, that's surfing.
Okay, cool.
Getting out in the ocean and having a space to connect with myself, with my thoughts, with nature, with spirituality, all the other things that happen out there in the ocean. That's my happy place.
Okay, so you're not saying, how I interpreted that was you're saying I have to do 40 minutes of like the Calm app. I'm like, no, that's actually making me more stressed.
I love it. But you and I have got the same busy brain. Like okay. our minds are racing a million miles an hour. We've got a bunch of different projects. We've got portfolio careers where we're doing a bunch of different things that we're juggling. We love it. We wouldn't have it any other way. But when we're moving between all of those different tasks, it's even more important to make sure that we are grounded and we are measured in our approach. So there's many ways to do that, but big wave surfing for me is my thing, right? It's like my team at Waves of Wellness, when I used to run the team, it was just, if it's a big wave day, you won't see me.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. And if it's above 10 foot, this is obviously you're going to grow up to or work up to the waves of this size. But over the last 28 years, I've become really, really in love with big wave surfing. So I get out there. It's the most alive I ever feel when I'm about to get smoked by a huge wave on the head, because I'm in an absolute flow state and I can't think of anything else. So every bit of technology in my life is away from me. Every bit of what I should have done, what I've got coming up, is all escaping my mind, and I'm literally in the moment. And that flow state is where the magic starts to happen. But creating more moments, more deliberate moments like that in our lives, I think is the real important part here.
Do you want to grow in your career? Are you after a fresh start or some inspiration? Or perhaps you're in a career crisis? The book Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money by Shelley Johnson and Glenn James is such a great resource at any stage in your career. It will give you practical strategies for things like getting a promotion, making more money, moving into a leadership role, taking career risks, or if it's time to quit your job, and so much more. You can find Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money wherever good books are sold or via the link in the podcast show notes. It's also available as an audiobook.
When you're saying, okay, and Sam, my husband's a surfer as well, and he, like, same thing, he's an overthinker, and so talks about the only time he feels like he can be fully present is in those moments where either he's playing golf or surfing, and like you're just focused on the one thing. And I was just, as I'm hearing you say that about big wave surfing and that you just have to be so present, I'm trying to think about, for me and for anyone listening who's not a surfer, how do you find that thing that you can get into the flow state? Like, what is it? And so are there strategies that you've used working with people as a therapist to help them to find that thing that actually re-energizes them, like surfing does for you?
It's a big conversation. You're focusing on the well-being, like the passion, the flow state. It's also like purpose. Like purpose is a much broader part of this conversation. But we could go into this if you want to start, but it's like, what makes you mad? What makes you glad? What makes you sad? If you then answer those sorts of things, you're going to find something that's like really making you glow. And in a physical sense, or in a like lock into flow state sense, I think that's where, if someone doesn't have the answer, that's where they can start. But I think if you don't know it or you don't have it, try everything. Try before you buy. Put yourself into a hot yoga class. Put yourself into a new community group where you're connecting with people. Like, find something that is actually your thing. It's not necessarily easy to find straight away. I don't really have a clear answer for it.
Well, and I guess it comes down to let's go into those questions then, because if you say what makes you glad, mad, and sad, what are the things, how would you answer those three questions for you personally?
What are my answers to those questions? I love this. Okay, so for me, I grew up as a 13-year-old kid being really badly bullied, and that led me to a pretty dark place. And growing up and becoming a therapist and then becoming a CEO and working in the world of mental health and wellbeing like I have, it's because I always wanted to give a voice to that 13-year-old kid who never had the skills or the support around them. To be a young person in school, I think it was year 7, I was in town here at Newcastle, and I was literally having different thoughts of suicide on how to get away from this world. And that was a pretty hard experience for me, but that has really inspired me to drive forward and to do the work that I do. Everything is around being able to help people deal with, calming chaos. If I think about what makes me mad, it's the fact that people can't open up and talk and be real with one another. I think vulnerability is a really powerful thing to bring people together and to normalize the fact that mental health struggles are super real. They're all around us, but we're not talking about it. And people don't necessarily realize that the person right next to them is dealing with the same shit, but they're just not on the same page talking and having that dialogue. So that's what makes me mad. It also makes me mad seeing people being very critical of someone who is mentally unwell. there's a lot of, labeling of, they're just a schizophrenic or they're so bipolar. Words and language, we spoke about language already, how important it is to make sure that we are contributing to breaking down the stigma around mental health and wellbeing. What makes me glad is being able to share joy, being able to have beautiful moments of connection with people, being able to spread kindness in the world, create little micro moments where you're paying for the coffee for the person behind you without them knowing that it's you, by doing little beautiful things for strangers that help you feel amazing, but also are passing on that ripple effect of kindness and gratitude and joy in this world when I really don't think there's enough of it. What makes me sad, I love this. I've never been asked my own question.
Isn't that weird when you ask other people the questions and then you think, oh shit, now I'm having to answer them. So go there. What
makes me sad is thinking back to my younger self and just how broken I was. How if I didn't have the strength to get out of that moment, it would have been a very different world, or it wouldn't be a world. So for me, we've supported over 5,500 people through surf therapy programs at Waves of Wellness Foundation over the years. And that's people that are struggling with their mental health that have no ability to reach out for help. So we're catching people falling through the cracks, basically. So what makes me sad is when we can't necessarily get to those people, or when someone's in a work environment and they don't feel like they can open up about their wellbeing because they don't feel they're actually going to be heard or received or understood. So everything that I stand for now when it comes to leadership, mental fitness, and high performance, it's all around how do we learn the skills and strategies to not just survive in our workplaces and in our lives more generally, but to thrive and to be mindful that high performance is not high performance unless you've got sustained healthy wellbeing and mental fitness a part of that.
I'm just sitting with that for a sec because I'm thinking about that idea, and it's such a good call out. I think particularly in the world of work where you're rewarded for achievement above all else, a lot of people listening, and a lot of people who listen to this podcast, I would consider to be overachievers. That's why they listen to a podcast about work. Like you could listen to a true crime pod, but here you are listening to this. You could be listening to Shameless or anything pop culture related, but they're like, I'm obsessed with work. And so as myself being someone who is definitely obsessed with work, one of the problems with achievement orientation is that it often is so short-term focused and it comes at the expense of your health. And you and I have talked about this offline. I'm curious to know what it is. What do you think it is about high achievers that makes them focus so much on the achievement side but not realize the importance of that sustained health? Because I kind of think if you don't have that sustained health, you can achieve for periods of time and even decent periods like 3 years. But you always tend to see people hit a wall. So what is your thoughts as you're hearing me kind of just ramble my way through that? How do you achieve without hitting the wall or going through burnout?
How long you got? I love this. So sustained healthy performance can be many different things. But for me, I've been on the far extreme of that where I have actually dropped into significant burnout twice in my career. And what do they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Shame on me, yeah, that's right.
For me, when I had such a passion for the work we were doing around mental health and wellbeing and speaking out for the people that don't have a voice, that was a chance to really advocate for a large population of people where I took that on with myself and the work I was doing as purpose. It's purpose. I've got a purpose. And when you've got a purpose, it actually can drain you far quicker because you're feeling like everything's on your shoulders. So it's not really answering your question because I'm going straight to the issue of burnout. But I think in order to sustain that performance for a significant period of time, it's being aware of not only the performance in the moment and that moment of impact, but it's also the micro moments around that. So I've got a 5-step model. Number 1 being preparation. What are you doing to prepare for that moment when it comes, not just expecting to be zero to hero in the moment of high pressure? Then you've got the early warning signs and awareness in the step 2. So understanding the triggers and early warning signs in your own body so that you can see that, the pressure's starting to rise here. And I now know that I need to employ these wellbeing strategies to get me back to that equilibrium. Then we go to step 3 and then you're in the impact zone. And this actually came around from like preparing for big wave surfing rather than actually preparing for leadership, but it works so perfectly for both environments. In the impact zone, you've got some pretty important things you can do then and there to manage your well-being, whether that is, box breathing or combat breathing, they call it in the SAS. So whether you're doing, pause, hold, like you're literally giving yourself an opportunity to regulate your nervous system and reset. And I think that one of the biggest problems that people have is they don't actually have the moments to rest and recover in order to then be that expected high performer. So connection is number 4. So really understanding who you can get in your support network around you to back you up, because you do not need to do this stuff by yourself, but a lot of people think they are an island. And that sort of reset is number 5, being you must always remember that recalibration is a part of the cycle to then be a high performer.
And I want you to... I'm being really bossy. I want you to do this for me.
Let's go.
It's classic. I'm just thinking about those 5 steps, and I've probably learned through experience of not doing them. And it's really interesting even hearing you talk about the impact zone, because I was imagining as like big wave surfing and having watched a few different big wave surfers and being like, how do they do that? Like, I want you to talk to me about your burnout story and what you took away from that experience that has undoubtedly changed your life.
What I learned is that as leaders, we can't be everything to everyone. For so long, I was trying to hold everyone else up. As a lifeguard, as a CEO, as a therapist, I'd literally spent my whole life bringing people up to the surface. Yet I was sinking myself. So I needed to look in the mirror and I needed to take on my own advice and not think that I was above it. They say that 50% of psychologists did it because they had mental health challenges and wanted to understand their brain more. I would definitely agree with that, because a lot of my peers are in the same space that I am. Like, I am not a psychologist. I'm an occupational therapist by training. I specialize in early psychosis. But for me, it was, how do I make sure I learn from my experiences so I can help other people avoid them? So the other thing that I find really fascinating is that regardless of how much you know that you're not doing things for your well-being, you just stay in that rhythm.
Yeah.
You're really feeling that, aren't you, Shelley?
I am. I'm sitting here yeah, absolutely. I can tell. A few of my friends are going, no. It's like, you're talking to me. Yeah. And it's the vicious cycle. But it's hard to spot when you're in it. And so I'm thinking about that for you as being someone who actually has so much knowledge of the industry, of how the brain works. What did that look like, that burnout experience for you, and how did you find your way through it?
For me, the early warning signs, step number 2, were I was actually getting really irritable. I was snapping at people in my life that were closest to me. Years ago, my ex-wife said to me that they get the best of you while I get the rest of you. And that was a punch in the face, metaphorically, because I needed to hear it, and it allowed me to change the way that I was putting energy out there, and more importantly, conserving energy for myself and the people in my life. Nowadays, with almost a decade later, I've got a young family, a beautiful slice of my world is making sure I do protect my time, making sure that the whole point of setting up a portfolio career is that you can pick and choose the amazing projects that you work on and get that balance back in your life a little more. Whether that's going and doing a keynote a week, or whether that's going and doing a workshop one a month, then you've got time with your family to do the sorts of things that you didn't necessarily get when you were putting all of your energy and all of your time into everyone else because you thought that's what you had to do. I want to
go back a sec to where you said, it's quite profound really, where you said you bring everyone else up to the surface, and that idea of I'm thinking about the visual of the lifeguard helping rescue people. but not realize where they're at themselves. And that you said, like, I'm bringing people to the surface, but I myself am drowning. And I'm thinking about people listening now, a couple of people who are listening. So we've probably got quite a lot of leaders, team leaders, managers, emerging leaders, first-time managers who are giving and giving and giving. And that's like one of the things I've been talking about a lot lately with the teams we work with is this idea of untired leadership. What does it mean as a leader when you're continually tired and exhausted because you're giving out from a place where you have no input? So that's one group of people listening. The other group of people listening, we have a lot of HR professionals, people and culture professionals who do the same thing where they're giving. They're dealing with some of the most unhealthy things in an organization, and they give all this input to other people, but they don't get any input. And often they find they're not realizing, oh my gosh, I'm actually not well. Like, I don't feel that good. For people like that are doing what you described of they're pulling people up to the surface, but they're not looking after themselves at all, what would you say to that person?
I'd say I hear you. I see you. And keep going. Like, you can do this, but there's certain things that you can do or strategies you can employ quite simply that are going to change your experience. For me, the best metaphor, if we conceptually think about being on a runway, sitting in the plane in your seat, and you've got the person in the aisle doing the safety briefing. The first thing we do is we look away, we ignore them, and we're on our phone, or we're trying to fit our last phone call in before we have to turn our phone off or whatever. What my message is for you guys, whether you land in 1, 2, or 3 of those buckets we've just described, is instead of ignoring that safety briefing, actually grab that oxygen mask and put it on first in your own life before you then try and hand over all of that support to everyone else. Actually be accountable to yourself like you are accountable to everyone else. We often will put ourselves last on the pecking order because for whatever reason, there's many things psychologically why we do this, but we're last because we don't think we are valuable. We're last because maybe we haven't put ourselves or held ourselves to the same standard. So the real message here is, what are you doing to hold yourself accountable for the standard that you want to be in this world? What are you doing that actually allows you to genuinely be well and sustain that mental fitness so that you can deal with whatever chaos is coming at you?
I'm listening to this big sigh. And I do that because I think I always close my eyes when I'm deep in thought, which is what I'm doing. If you're listening, if you're watching, you'll see me doing this. So I hear that, and I fully agree that when people are givers, they often think of themselves last. And so the other side of this that's on my mind is we're often rewarded for a certain behavior of prioritizing other people first, which there's a selflessness that is very admirable. The person who is the giver, I think we want to be those people. They're the people we like the most. Like, there's just so many things that we're rewarded for a certain behavior. So untangling that is really difficult. So I want to call that out. The other reason I do the big sigh is because I'm like, I hear you in saying put the oxygen mask on first, but I'm like, what does that practically look like? And so I'm wrestling through this right now going, for me, how would I do that? And I want to sense check this with you, Joel, because this has been on my radar for a while. This idea of recovery versus self-care. I have always recoiled at the term self-care. I just imagine people, and I love a facial. Like, I love a facial. But I'm like, self-care for me feels really self-indulgent. But where I've come to with this idea of recovery, and again, this goes to language, and it's a preference thing, right? I love the language of recovery because I'm like, yes, like I can fully get into that. This idea of, instead of going, I'm going to, like, as a mum who is always about, oh my gosh, every moment I have at home with my kids, I should be fully invested in that. Like, the idea of self-care feels like unachievable, versus the idea of recovery to me feels more about how do you sustain high performance. We know elite athletes have really stringent recovery processes that they follow. And so I guess I've been thinking about the idea of recovery and rest, and I vibe that so much more than self-care. What does recovery look like? And then what does rest look like? And those two things help you to perform well. I can get around that. What do you, like, as you're hearing me say this, challenge me if you think you've been an idiot, or if any of this is like resonating with you.
Far from it, Shell. Okay. Far from it. So language, again, third time we're coming back to this, language is everything. Self-care in Australian context is selfish. And I cannot be clearer around this. If you want to be well, you need to change your thinking. Not you, but everyone.
But also.
And I'm also looking in the mirror when I'm saying this, right? Because we actually need to honour the fact that we have to be selfish. It's actually not being selfish. It's focusing on yourself to ensure that you have what it takes to be there for everyone else. You can bet your ass that you're not going to be a good leader if you're crashing and burning because you've been going 100%, 120% of the time. You know, the whole idea of rest and recovery for me, and I love your framing here, is that is an essential part of leadership. Like rest, reflection, recalibration, they are all recharging your batteries and allowing you to be the high-performing leader that you want to be. If you do not do those things and you consider them as luxury behaviors or self-care and it's optional, it's not optional. The only thing that's optional is whether you're going to succeed, because you're not going to be able to do what you want to do unless you're actually in a frame of mind and physically, mentally fit in a whole of wellbeing umbrella. So when I think about how do we tangibly do that in a busy day, I can speak about my own experience. I don't control my time after 7 a.m. I've got a young family. A 2.5-year-old baby. Lexi is amazing. She's a ball of joy, but she's also a lot. And so
2-year-olds are a lot.
Oh, my word. But it's like I also want to be the present girl dad that I'm so proud of being, that I also want to throw myself 100% into that. So if I know that my day is about to get out of hand with, you know, all of the projects and exciting things that are on the run, not to mention traveling for different work, I know that I need to start my day well. So if I know I need to do that and I've gone to bed late because I was on a call with a different country and I know that I need to get 8 hours sleep, but I'm actually making the decision that I'm going to deal with 5 or 6 hours sleep and still go to the gym at 5 a.m., still have, and this is where it comes back to recovery, you've got the physical activity and then you've got the ice bath and the sauna after the gym. For me, that is my happy place. And that's where I can start to really cement and embed this idea of recovery and recalibration so that rest is genuinely serving me for what I need to do and what I need to perform in the day.
I do like to unravel what is it about the way things are framed that either draws you in or pushes you out. So the idea of like well-being has got, I think, a bit of a stigma around it for some reason. I don't know why, but even just I love your term of mental fitness, because I can be like, yeah, we need physical fitness, we need mental fitness. And it kind of links into the idea of even energy management, like how do we manage our energy, which I really love those concepts. And then looking at, for someone listening right now who thinks, actually, I am really tired, and more than tired, I'm feeling like I'm on that one of the stages of burnout and heading down a direction that maybe isn't healthy, coming back to, well, what does recovery look like for you as an individual? Because for you, I think about the ice bath and the sauna.
It's not accessible for everyone.
Exactly, yeah. And so, I mean, awesome. And I know, like, for me, what is my version of that? And we were talking beforehand, like, I love, I don't know why it's so simple, but I was talking to Sam about it last night because we were sitting on our deck and we like just have like this beautiful view out on our balcony, and it's just such a basic thing. But I just, after the kids go to sleep, we just sit there. He's watching the footy. I just like to write. And if it's actually good writing or shit writing, I don't really care. But me, the art of like, I had a wine, scribbled down some thoughts, and like that is recovery for me. But it's also linked to, I think, rest. It does help me rest. It helps me sleep better at night because I get all my overthinking out on paper. But someone else listening is like, that's the worst thing in the world. Like you need to find your own version, and you can't find that if you don't make it a priority to figure out how do I recover and how do I rest. And I find it sad, like if we go to happy, mad, sad, I find it sad when people only learn this having gone through a burnout experience. They hit the wall and they're like, oh, okay, now I really need to, I'm cooked and I've got to do a whole lot of deep work to get back to a healthy stage. Has that been something you've seen where it's like, if only we could learn this without having gone through major burnout?
Yeah, unfortunately, I know a lot about this because I've been there. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that people don't get there. It's because you don't have to be that, final match in the group that then is about to fully burn out and disintegrate before you then actually do something about it. So for me, it's around identifying like what is the thing in your life that makes your heart sing? Like what is the thing that makes you so bloody stoked and you need to do more of that to then come back to that equilibrium. So we're in a car, we're driving to Sydney, we've got a 128 kilometre journey ahead of us. We're not going to do that on an empty tank. We're going to watch the fuel gauge go down. It's going to get to half, it's going to get to quarter, the light's going to go on, and we're going to go, I need to fill up the tank. So what are you doing to fill up your own tank when it comes to mental fitness? It's not your petrol bowser, it's your actual brain space and your energy. And that energy levels is not going to get you to Sydney if you're pouring into an empty cup. You must invest in the moments that make you sing, the moments that make you like shine with joy, because that's where you will then come back to always being able to give and serve and be the leader that you want to be. If we're trying to be everything to everyone while ignoring ourselves, there's this real issue in Australia with tall poppy syndrome. You don't want to talk about yourself too much. You're taught to put everyone else first and not yourself. I think we've got a lot to learn from Americans when it comes to that world of being able to talk about yourself and being able to be owning that idea of achievement and accomplishment. But because of the way that we've been taught and this basically this long-term negative framing of language, I believe that self-care, selfish, self-love, tall poppy, they all come into this concept of don't put your head up too far and don't do too much for yourself, because then people will perceive you as being selfish and not like aligned with everyone else.
Or self-promoting, like that's another one that like we see a lot of. If you come across as self-promoting, you must be narcissistic or you must be a complete idiot. Like, I don't know, I just think this, you're right around that tall poppy syndrome. Even talking about your strengths, like I find it really sad sometimes where, how we all have blind spots about our weakness. We also have strengths, blind spots, and people, I think a lot of people that I work with who are super talented are like so reticent to talk about the things that they're good at. And you just want to shake them because I'm like, hey, like you're a freaking legend at this. Like, why are you being so weird? Like, just own it.
So this is really fascinating, Shell. In more recent times, I've moved into the world of executive search. And going for a role in an executive team, you're going to need to talk about your strengths. You're going to need to advocate for what you're amazing at. No one else is going to do that for you. So what I've become so passionate about is actually coaching people through those moments and then putting them into like the full-thrown simulation so that they can get comfortable in the uncomfortable. I believe that as humans, we are so comfortable nowadays that we actually aren't leaning into discomfort like we used to. Whether that is, getting into an ice bath, whether it is talking to a stranger, whether it is having an opportunity to public speak when you hate it, whatever those moments are, my sort of message to your listeners would be get uncomfortable more often, and then it becomes really comfortable so that when you're in that job interview and when you're trying to pitch for that role, you can actually nail it. And what I have really loved recently is trying to get people to look at themselves in a different way so that they don't get all in their head and they actually really objectively say, you know what, I am amazing at this. I do have these skills. I am the best person for this job. And then they land the bloody CHRO role in a ASX listed company. To me, that's where the magic starts to happen, when we are empowering people to be calm in the chaos. And that's what I'm so stoked about.
I'm even just imagining like where I've heard people own strengths and this is the way they frame it. They'll go, yeah, one of my strengths is this, but sometimes when it's overplayed, it can look like this. And they go straight to like, it's almost like they kind of insinuate a strength, but then they undercut it because they don't want to be seen as self-promotory. But I think
Shell, what's one of your biggest strengths?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, let's hit it.
I will. I do really own this. One of my biggest strengths is to make complex ideas really simple. And I can do that really easily. I've been told that a lot. I can take a concept like how do you give like tough feedback to someone, break it down into 3 steps, and then someone can take that and implement it straight away. That would be one of my big strengths.
I'm really feeling that.
Yeah, good. That's what we want. And I think everyone has their own version. And if you don't know what yours are, the way you can figure it out is what do people say to you when they give you good feedback? There's usually a thread. And I kind of think about the golden thread through your career. And I guess I'd ask you, and we probably only have time for one more question, but if we think about each person listening, they've got this golden thread of a strength, or if it'll be more than one, it'd probably be 3 or 4 amazing strengths or superpowers you bring to a team. Usually you will have got feedback over the course of your career that reinforces that thing. If you were to answer that question, what would be a strength that people would say about you, Joel? What is it?
In one word, it's authenticity. I show up in every conversation, in every place in my life the same. And I was always told as a therapist and working in a hospital, you can't tell that patient anything about yourself. It has to be a clinical boundary. And in my opinion, that's bullshit. We need to be human. We need to connect. We need to get down to that deep level and be real with one another in every context. And yes, that's hard in the workplace. In a HR point of view, that is a challenging thing, and managing boundaries is key. But also having a clear understanding about what a safe disclosure is and what a deliberate vulnerability is, so that you're not opening Pandora's box, but you're being super real with someone to the point where you can actually genuinely connect and have a relationship at a level which actually means something. And so whether it is in the speaking, in the workshops, in the executive search world, whatever I'm doing, even in my personal life, I'm building real relationships and treating people as people, not as another number, not as another thing that I've got to do, but every person you meet in this world is another opportunity for someone to change your life. For me, that turned into driving Uber when I was trying to hustle and grind and make the whole charity thing happen years ago. That was actually someone that then turned into a 15-minute journey and a $20,000 donation that started the organization. Every person can change your life. You've just got to invest in those relationships and connect in the real ways.
I love that. I love that so much. And this conversation's been really good. And I do agree, like the vulnerability, I was thinking as you're talking here, how much of this is relevant to me personally, where I'm at, which we've talked about offline, but also people listening right now who are feeling like they're tired, they're worried about what's going on in the world, and coming back to, okay, well, what's within your control? How do you own your mental fitness? How do you find that rest and recovery? What it looks like for you personally. There's no prescriptive way. Your cold plunges, my weird writing and wine, whatever it is for you, like take this and go experiment, because I think that experimentation and trying different things out to go, what is it that lights me up?
Yeah. And give yourself a bloody break.
Yeah.
Stop being so critical and hard on yourself.
Yes, self-criticism. It is a drainer. Hey, Joel, people are going to want to connect with you. What's the best way for them to find you? LinkedIn,
Joel Pilgrim. There's so many parts of this conversation which can go further. So, yeah, it's probably a good place to start.
Amazing. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I want you to do 2 things for me. I want you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. I imagine you listening right now, you know someone who's been on your mind who you think they need to look after themselves. I'm worried about them. Send them this episode. And as always, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us get the pod out there, which is part of our mission. We want more people to do well and kill it at work without killing themselves in the process. Joel, thanks for hanging out.
Big love.
If you have enjoyed the show today, forward it to a friend, colleague, or family member who you may think it would benefit. Shelley's business Boldside provides leadership training for a variety of different businesses. To learn more, visit boldside.com.au. If you would like to book Shelley to speak at one of your events, please reach out to the team via moneypodcast.com.au.